So a lot of statistics are things that are kind of created and invented by people. They're ways to interpret things that kind of happen. But a lot of it is stuff that I'm not a huge fan of just because I like things that occur, that happen. And a lot of statistics doesn't just happen. The normal curve is an exception to that. Okay, there is a lot of data that when you look at it and look at the properties of it, will be very close to fitting this normal curve. All right. So normal curve is a shape that data falls into. All right. There's some examples right here. All right. Scores, salaries, house values, heights of people, ages of people, things like that. If you take a population and observe what's going on and do a survey, a lot of the things will be able to be described by a normal curve. It'll have a mean, it'll have a standard deviation, and the stuff fits this. It might not be perfect, but it's very, very close. All right, very, very close. And it's something that's, to me, again, I think things are interesting that exist. All right, that then you learn you learn about and you learn to explain it. All right, and one of the things with a normal curve is that the data is going to fall in these locations because, all right, we don't make it do it, it just does it. All right, we can figure out a standard deviation, we can figure out a mean, and then we can look at it and we can be like, wow, this actually really happens. All right, so this empirical rule, which are approximations, which I don't really have to do anymore because the calculator can do this stuff for me. So knowing these things are just, they're helpful, all right, but they're not required anymore because the calculator will be able to figure things out for me like this, and we'll do that towards the end of this file. All right, but how this works is that if something is normal or approximated by the normal, 68% of all the data is going to fall within one standard deviation of the mean. And it's something you can test out and see if it actually happens. Okay? And then within two standard deviations of the mean, you're actually going to get 95%. All right? And this is kind of where that whole outlier thing is going to come in. All right? If you were on the outside of that, you're an outlier. It's odd. You know, you're not 95% falls in there, 5% falls outside. And then within three standard deviations of the mean, you're actually going to get almost everybody. All right, 99.7%. All right, with a small set of data, that might be everyone. There might not be any outliers. All right, this is how a lot of things will grade. It's not a lot. Some college classes will grade this way, and standardized tests are graded this way because you're not necessarily being graded on what you got right. You're being compared to everybody else. All right. So did you score better than 75% of everybody? All right. Because that would be considered to be pretty good. Or did you score only at the 25th percentile, which means you were in the lower portion of the people that scored on that test. Doesn't mean you're necessarily dumber. All right. Just maybe that day you didn't do as well. All right. And then the thing that I don't see written here is that 50% is on either side. So here's the mean. There's 50% over here. There's 50% over here. And this is all very symmetrical. So it means if the middle portion is 68, that means there's about 34 there and about 34 there. And it all splits up that way. All right. And before we had a calculator that did all this stuff, we had to know this because this is how we figured things out. All right. But now we don't have to do that anymore because the calculator will do it. So the first set of questions is going to ask you to use this thing. It's right here. Just come up and look at it. All right. And then the second set of stuff is going to ask you to use the calculator. You are going to want to add numbers on right here. Take the mean and the standard deviation and put those numbers on there so that you can easily look at it and figure out what the thing is asking.